How's it going, all you mentees? This is the Uncanny Omar from Near Mint Condition, and join me today for an advanced look at the Captain America by Jack Kirby Omnibus. And this isn't your average reprint, because some of the artwork has been restored. So let's take a look together. And welcome back, everybody. Now, before I get started, a huge thank you to David Gabriel and the folks at Marvel for sending us an advanced copy of this omnibus. This omnibus is due out in the direct market on March 10th, and then a couple of weeks later in the book market. Now, what we're looking at here is the direct market cover, and this is normally where I put up an image of the other cover, the standard edition cover, or in case I have the standard edition cover, I put up the direct market cover. This time, this is really cool. The printer sent me both covers. So, you get to take a look at both of the covers. There we have the direct market cover and the standard edition cover. And for all those people that have been asking me, are there any other differences other than the covers? Well, not really, or at least that's the way it used to be. But lately, Marvel has been also giving us different spines. Sometimes the logo is different on the spine, and then of course the picture is different too. So, pretty cool that they're doing that. So it's not just the cover anymore. Now sometimes it's the spine as well. The back, however, is completely identical. Now let's take a look at it under the dust jacket. It's just the logo on a black board. Captain America hollering at somebody down there. And then the black board back here. Okay, so let's go ahead and get this open. Captain America. This is the Return of the King, by the way. Jack the King Kirby making a return to the character that he co-created. And this was a big deal. Here's all the credits right here. All the writers, all these inkers. But basically all the writers is just Jack Kirby because he was allowed to do whatever he wanted to do. All the different inkers. The main inker here being Frank Giacoia. And then the contents of the book. There are two introductions because I think they got these from the Marvel Masterworks. And that is one by John B. Cook, and the other one is done by Mark Waid. And I'm pretty sure you're familiar with Mark Waid, and some of you may be familiar with John B. Cook. So it all kicks off with Captain America number 193. So he collects Captain America 193 to 214, and Captain America Annuals 3 and 4, as well as the Marvel Treasury Special Edition, Captain America's Bicentennial Battles. So what made this such a big deal? Well, as I mentioned, it was the return of the king. Jack Kirby had left Marvel Comics about 5 years prior to this and went to the distinguished competition. He created a series of Fourth World books, however, a lot of that stuff got canceled. So he was unhappy, and Stan the Man Lee asked him to come back to Marvel. And it was a big deal. Like, they announced it at like a small little convention, and that was before the age of the internet, before the age of like Wizard magazine and things like that. So people were literally surprised to have him return to Captain America, just showing off this beautiful artwork, lots of spreads, lots of splash pages too. So that was it. I mean, it was the return to his character. And at the same time, there was a lot of things going on in America in 1975. So for a lot of kids, or a lot of adults that grew up reading Captain America, having Jack Kirby back gave them a lot of hope. Like, it was a symbol of believing again. So it's really iconic, this return. And I'm going to get to something here in a little bit that kind of reminds me of the times we're living in today, or I guess it's always been there. And it mainly takes place in the letter pages, because I've never read any of the letter pages. All of these have been collected previously in trade paperbacks. This is a reprint of the original Omnibus. However, this has been restored, and I'll do a comparison here with my trade paperback. So there were a series of 3 trade paperbacks that made this up. You had the Mad Bomb, you had Bicentennial Battles, and then you had the Swine. But I read them all in trade paperback when these came out, probably about 10 years ago or so, probably older than that. I never seem to remember how old these things are the older I get. It all seems just like yesterday. So the basic plot of this storyline, or his return, there is a bomb that, this is really cool. Let's go back to here. So it's called the Mad Bomb, and there are 3 different little versions of this bomb that make people have a psychedelic breakdown. They start fighting against each other. There's angry mobs, and it's tearing America apart. There's this awesome splash page, right here, where Cap is like, I've never seen anything like this, you know? I fought in World War II. This is so weird. It's made the city go into shambles. And he's, of course, teamed up with Falcon. And we'll talk about that here in a little bit, too. Now, there are 3 different versions of this Mad Bomb. There's something called the Peanut, and the Peanut can destroy a city. And then there's something called the Dumpling, and the Dumpling can destroy the a state. And then we have the Big Daddy, the Mad Bomb, that can destroy a whole country. And that's what this storyline is about. Captain America and Falcon fighting off against this psychedelic attack and try to take down the Mad Bomb. The second story arc, or how this is split up, I'm just basing it on the trade paperbacks, is the Bicentennial Battles. So this is really cool. Because this showcases Captain America just traveling through different periods of time in Americans' history. The coolest thing about this is the inkers. So you have Barry Windsor Smith, you have Herb Trimpe, and you have John Romita inking his stuff. And even when I had the trade paperback, I could tell that this is Barry Windsor Smith inking the very first chapter. And it's so cool to see, Barry Windsor Smith inking Jack Kirby's art. That is so freaking wicked, because a lot of these artists grew inspiration from Kirby. Lots of beautiful splash pages. There are really powerful moments in here. Yeah, right here, My Fellow Americans. This is so cool, where Captain America stands up for Native Americans. He literally starts yelling at the infantry that there's got to be another way. We're all Americans. That's such a powerful moment in a Captain America comic. And by Kismet, this book came out on the 200th anniversary of the United States of America. So it was like Jack returning in 1975, and then in 1976, he produced this book. That is insane that all of this happened at the same time. It's almost as it was meant to be, written in the stars, if you will. And as I've mentioned before, I don't think I need to keep mentioning this. Growing up in my teens, in my 20s, I really didn't care for Jack Kirby's artwork. It wasn't until I got into my 30s that I started to appreciate what he did for comics and just his style of storytelling. So then, that's pretty much chapter 2. We get this interdimensional storyline where he's traveling through to a different dimension. We get a creature that comes to our dimension. And long before Lost in Dimension Z by Rick Remender, here's the forward by Mark Waid. Yeah, you get a sci-fi story in the annual number 3. And then you get the return of a villain in annual number 4. I'm trying to keep away from spoilers, but I don't know if I can based on the cover. But we'll see. We'll see when we get there. The third storyline, it's known as The Swine. And it's about this dictator named Hector Santiago from Rio de la Muerte. And he has slaves, and he has his own soldiers. And, of course, Captain America is not going to stand for that. So that's what this guy right here. So that's what he's going to do. He's going to go and take this guy down. The best part about that, though, about this story arc, is the introduction of the fine, let me see, Donna Maria. Man, I remember, never mind. Anyway, she's fine. Good job, Kirby. Way to introduce an awesome character. Look at that awesome spread. Now, that's basically how it's broken down. Here is the sad thing that I've never noticed. Jack Kirby left after this. He went on to do work in animation, and he was done working on his character that he co-created. What I never noticed, because I didn't have access to these, are the letter pages. And within the letter pages, and Mark Waid has a great introduction about this, there are some critical people in the letter pages just tearing down Jack Kirby's writing. They were tired of seeing these stories. They wanted to see classic villains return. Mad Bomb was okay, but by the time the Swine came around, they were just bored, and they wanted the return of villains. And it's weird to see that in letter pages, basically with a return of somebody as legendary as Jack Kirby coming back to Marvel seemed like a big deal. And then in the letter pages, I'm serious, it's like reading comments from trolls. A lot of people are writing, Z, like the letter Z, oh, this story was boring. Can we get Jack Kirby off the book? And the funniest ones, or the ones that I find ironic, are the people that want Red Wing back. They were like, hey, do you even remember that Falcon had a sidekick named Red Wing? He was a bird. Do you remember that, Kirby? They were calling Kirby out. They were like, do you care, Kirby? Do you remember? It just reminded me of like troll comments you would find these days. You know what I mean? Like, that's crazy. I guess it's always been a part of, or any fandom, right? Like, when you find something so close that you love and you hold on to it and you want it to stay the same. So a lot of people were complaining that Kirby was stuck in the 40s and 50s telling these stories. And in a way, reading these, it does feel like its own little pocket dimension, if you will. Whereas, like, this reads different than Avengers Captain America. This reads like it takes place somewhere else. I mentioned the same thing about Eternals. Eternals was like that until I think Editorial Mandate stepped in and said, hey, we need to start integrating these characters into the Marvel Universe. That's what this felt like. Even though Falcon was in here, everybody was complaining about, where's Red Wing? And there's somebody that signs his name like the Red Wing fan club it was just weird. So in the foreword by Mark Waid, he explains that during this time, there were a lot of editorial staff, or some editorial staff, that weren't fans of Kirby, that weren't fans of the things he was doing, and that's why they let a lot of those letters fall into the letter pages. What's the matter? Can't you draw birds? Like, things like that. And I'm sure Kirby saw these. And I'm sure he was, you know, despite of his status of who he was, I'm sure it still hit him to the core. And I'm sure that's part of the reason why he decided to leave and go into animation. And, you know, never came back to his character. Never came back to write and draw Captain America. So, I did want to showcase that. This is also the introduction of Arnim Zola, one of Captain America's biggest villains. And by the time he brought back Sharon Carter, people were still upset. They were like, hey, man, Sharon Carter was in the middle of a storyline about breaking up with Steve. Do you even know what happened? Did you even read those stories? It's crazy having to read those letter pages. Let's look in the back here for some extras. The annual, like I mentioned, annual number 4. There is a returning character, a returning villain through these pages. In the annual number 4, there's also another returning villain. Here's some of the artwork from annual number 4. The cover shows who the villain is, so I don't want to spoil that for anybody. Keep a few surprises for you all. The book, by the way, has 648 pages, retails for $100. Let's look in the back, and then we'll do a look at the binding and then a comparison. So here you have the cover of Foom, heralding the return of Jack the King Kirby. The back of it, an interview with him, an article about his return. Oh, wow. This is a panoramic shot from 2001, A Space Odyssey, which is a book that I would love to see a gallery edition, a big hardcover of that. That would be beautiful. Once and Future King, articles on him. And then at last it can be told the origin of Jack Kirby. Here's another spread page. Some more house ads. Cover pencils. This is awesome to own some of these cover pencils. So cool. Alright. Then, of course, the trade paperbacks back here. The cover of the trades. Let's look at the binding. As I mentioned, 648 pages. There is that eye. Here's the earliest use of a spread. So I just wanted to show this. Make sure that you can see the non-existing gutter loss towards the beginning and then towards the end. Let's do a comparison here. So on the left here are the new restored images, and on the right are the original scans that I assume they used for the original Omnibus. I don't have the original Omnibus, otherwise I'd do a comparison of it, but I assume they used the same scans for these trades that were released after the Omni. Not much of a difference other than this is a lot clearer and crisper. This is a little rough around the edges. And keep in mind, this character's head right there, Texas Jack, it has blonde hair. And of course, we can't make my job that easy, so they're on opposing pages. The artwork really seems a lot darker. The tone of the colors are a lot darker in the original scans. Texas Jack's hair is white, where it's corrected here in the new restored version. And this is throughout the entire trades. It's not just a couple of pages. The colors on the restored scans are a lot more vibrant here. And not just the colors on clothing or faces, but also the caption boxes are different too. It's pretty cool. So they went through each panel, it looks like, to do a restoration and keeping the tones consistent. Because that was the problem with these scans. The color and the shading was off even from panel to panel from time to time. And just one more to give you an idea exactly of what the restoration has done. And that, as they say, is that. When this book does come out, don't forget to check out our sponsor,
CheapGraphicNovels.com, your online source for collected editions up to 50% off retail price. Cheap Graphic Novels prides itself on excellent packaging, so your stuff gets to you in excellent condition, and they have amazing customer service. Check out their bargain deals for up to 90% off cover price. And for all you Minties that are watching, if you're a first-time customer, don't forget to mention that Near Mint Condition sent you their way for a promotional credit on free shipping on your next order. Now, this is only for U.S. customers. CheapGraphicNovels.com, your source for the hottest books with deep discounts, customer service, and excellent shipping that will keep you coming back for more.
And that was the content, the page count, and the build of this book, and of course the comparison to what the older files looked like, or at least the ones I had in the trade paperback, and I assume that's what the original Omnibus had. Again, this was the Uncanny Omar. Please don't forget to leave all those questions down below, comments down below, let me know which cover you're going to go for, and more importantly, please everybody stay healthy, stay safe, and much love to all of you.